Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the ANC says it's committed to declare the energy crisis in South Africa a national state of disaster. This will help cut red tape and fast-track the government's reaction to sorting out rolling blackouts. The party says vandalism remains a concern, with 6 power stations not operational at the moment. Now, eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge is following that story for us, and he joins us now live from Luthuli House in Johannesburg. Sipa, the ANC's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, already announcing yesterday that many of the NEC members agreed that it should be a national state of disaster. Just tell us what more was elaborated around this there.
Well, basically, the ANC NEC Lekgotla meeting had to deliberate on the most pressing and urgent crisis right now in South Africa, and that is the energy crisis. It doesn't matter what the ANC-led government does. If they are unable to sort out the issue of the energy crisis, well, they are just a governing party that is winging it. It would appear that for years they've not been able to figure out what to do with Eskom. As we speak, even today, their president yesterday announcing that there is a strong proposal which has been adopted by the NEC Lekgotla to say this must be declared a national state of disaster, but it still needs to go through all the legalities. It still needs to go to the Cabinet Lekgotla, which starts tomorrow, and then it will have to be a cabinet resolution to do so. Remember, it needs to go through all those legalities and it needs to comply with legislation. It's not a new proposal. It's been on the cards for a number of months now. Even on the 27th of January, the Black Business Council did propose or recommend that the issue of the energy crisis be declared a state of national disaster. And I can tell you that that call alone is not enough to deal with short to medium term solution of dealing with load shedding. As we speak, we are at Luthuli House. These are the headquarters of the governing party. They have been saying in the past this is the revolutionary house, but power will take power away from the NEC, because as their Secretary General and some NEC members, including their Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Nomvula Mokonyane, were addressing the media, Eskom announced that today they are implementing stage 5 load shedding, which will progress to stage 6 tomorrow. Mr. Mbalula is of the view that the ANC-led government will be able to contain stages of load shedding to lower stages, at least stage 2, and by the end of the year, to quote him, he says their strategic goal is to end load shedding by the end of the year, which we all know it's not going to happen. They say in social media streets, inganekwane, something that will not happen, because Eskom has said it will take more than that for a load shedding to be eradicated. Nomvula Mokonyane joins us. Thank you very much for your time. Your NEC Lekgotla dealt with the issue of the energy crisis. You say you want to end load shedding within a year, but we are on stage 5 to stage 6 load shedding tomorrow. What are your deployees saying? What were you discussing? Every time you say you will end load shedding, higher stages are implemented. Will President Cyril Ramaphosa be coming back from Namibia now that will be on stage 6?
Thank you very much for being here in the ANC headquarters. The Lekgotla picked up on the National Conference resolutions that there is a need to have some sense of urgency and doing the extraordinary to deal with the issues of load shedding. Never mind the issues of the just transition. We need to deal with the immediate things that disrupt the livelihoods of South Africans. We need a team that will be multidisciplinary team. We need capable individuals with the ability and the regulatory environment that will be conducive for them to be able to do the work. Yes, of course, we all are surprised. We were in the Lekgotla. We had our deployees making presentations. And of course, there was no indication about us going to stage 5 up to 6 today. And we really believe that there will be a need for our comrades to account, to present before the leadership of the organization that what has now necessitated the situation. We need to be able to reassure our people that there's every reason to have this declared as a national disaster so that we can do extraordinary things as we did with COVID, but also as we succeeded in putting new infrastructure during the 2010 World Cup.
It's embarrassing that tomorrow a cabinet Lekgotla starts and the country will be on stage 6 load shedding. Clearly, the ANC-led government does not know what to do to get rid of this crisis.
The ANC-led government is now going to be informed by the decisions of our Lekgotla that are saying we can't manage this uncoordinated crisis in a manner that does not actually give surety and certainty on the life of people, and hence our call that let's declare a national state of disaster.
Your critics will say you are a governing party that has gone into crisis and panic mode. Elections are approaching in 2024, only left with few months. You realize that this has got prospects of basically giving you hard time when you go to campaign next year. Now you are trying to find every solution that you can get to deal with this ESCOM challenge that will not be sorted out soon. This 1 year deadline, where do you get that from? Because clearly what you are talking, which is political talk, and what ESCOM is dealing with, backed by the facts that, as you were addressing, ESCOM implements stage 5 and tomorrow stage 6 load shedding. Where do you get this target of eradicating load shedding within a year?
The good thing about our Lekgotla, it was a culmination of many other processes that were engaging around the issue of the energy crisis, particularly on load shedding. We have been interacting with civil society. The president had to pull out of the Davos trip, the World Economic Forum.
And nothing happened after I pulled out of the trip.
And consulted extensively, including interacting with management of ESCOM and management at DPE and DMRE. And where we are now, it is out of those consultations that even the ANC had, the symposium that was held, and the presentations at the Lekgotla. It is based on information at our disposal. It is based on how we believe short-term interventions can be made whilst we are working at the long-term related issues. We're not in a panic mode. We are concerned just as any other South African, and we're calling for an extraordinary intervention.
You are a governing party. You can't be concerned. You were given an electoral mandate to fix this challenge, so you cannot be behaving like normal, ordinary South Africans. You've got political power to change the status quo.
That's exactly why we're using that political power to do the extraordinary. Declare a state of disaster so that you can do the extraordinary.
How are you going to navigate around that? Because when the state of disaster was declared during COVID-19, there were concerns about corruption that happened, but also how are you going to ensure that after declaring it, there are immediate positive results which will see South Africans not being overburdened by this energy crisis?
There are low-hanging fruits. The issues around the rooftop solar panels. There are solutions that can also be considered based on what we have in terms of the coal-powered generating points that can be utilized now to increase their capacity. There is a lot that we can do with the very resources that we have, including the use of coal, the use of gas, and most importantly, raising awareness in our communities on how to save energy.
You say you want South Africa to be a crime-free country by 2030, but that's not going to happen. If you look at the high levels of violent crime, South Africa is one of those countries in the world that has got highest number of violent crime cases. Women, children are not safe in South Africa. They are being raped and murdered by men. Why would you wait for Vision 2030 to declare South Africa a crime-free society, whereas South Africans are under siege from criminals right now as we speak?
Crime is everybody's, fighting crime is everybody's responsibility. Violent crimes in our country are a serious concern. And of course, we need to work together with everyone, the South African Police Services and many others who are key stakeholders in the crime prevention approach. We need a multi-sectoral, a multidisciplinary intervention when we have to deal with crime. Amongst others, the proliferation of unlicensed firearms in our country, the undocumented non-South Africans who are everywhere in our country. We need to deal with that. The buying of stolen goods, we need to deal with that. Of importance, just the violence on on the vulnerable women and children. It's something that we definitely have to deal with. We can only succeed as we have done it with the ANC Women's League on Molo Makelwane, Know Your Neighborhood, and the establishment of street committees. But it can only happen if all of us, we need to resuscitate business against crime. Those instruments, all of them, must be pulled together.
Very briefly, let's talk about leagues of the ANC Youth League and ANC Women's League conferences. When are you convening those? Very briefly.
As soon as we can mobilize the resources to take the ANC Youth League, the Youth League can go to conference. The ANC Women's League, they've started with their audit. They'll be presenting a report to us. We need to meet with them and make sure that they can go to conference, and they will see their provincial and regional conferences after a national conference.
Thank you very much for your time. That is Nomvula Mokonyane, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress.